Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to imagine something. Right now, as you're just going about your day, there is a massive, relentless, and completely invisible battle happening right inside your body. You're constantly surrounded by millions of dangerous viruses, bacteria, fungi, you name it. They're literally everywhere, and they want in. But you've got an invisible army standing guard, a force that never sleeps, never takes a day off, and definitely doesn't wait for orders. So today, we're going to explore exactly how this incredible defense network actually operates and, well, how it keeps you alive.
Now, to truly grasp the sheer scale of this, you've got to stop thinking of your body as just a single organism. Think of it more like a sprawling, giant city populated by 37 trillion citizens. Those are your cells. And every single second, outsiders are trying to breach the walls of this metropolis. Some are harmless, sure, but many are absolutely deadly. Without this highly coordinated defense force protecting your 37 trillion cell city, honestly, a human being wouldn't survive more than a few days.
So, you might be wondering, if there are millions of invaders floating in the air we breathe, hiding in the food we eat, and literally resting on our skin right now, why don't you notice? The answer is simple but incredibly profound. Your internal army is just that good. It operates in total silence, neutralizing threats way before you'd ever feel a single symptom. You don't notice the battle because, most of the time, your invisible army is winning, and winning effortlessly.
So let's look closer at this invisible army.
What we're really talking about here is the human immune system. And it's super important to understand that this isn't just one single organ. You can't just point to your arm and say, oh, there it is. It's a vast, highly coordinated military network of cells, proteins, and chemical signals. And what's really interesting about this slide is that third mission. Sure, the first two are crucial. Stop germs from entering and destroy the ones that manage to get inside. But that third one? Remember every enemy forever. Every disease you've ever recovered from is literally a one war. Because your system remembers, you typically only get things like chickenpox once. It logs the enemy in its database, and the next time, it knows exactly how to crush it.
Let's talk about the frontline battle.
Let's look at how a war actually breaks out. Before an invader can even dream of infecting your cells, it has to run this staggering gauntlet to get past your body's fortress walls. First off, your skin. It's a massive physical barrier blocking billions of microbes, constantly shedding dead cells and taking germs right off with them. If a bug tries your eyes, your tears contain an enzyme called lysozyme that literally obliterates bacterial cell walls every time you blink. Try the mouth, and antibacterial saliva washes them away. Breathe them in, sticky mucus traps them, tiny hairs sweep them down your throat, and they drop straight into a pool of stomach acid with a pH of 1 to 2. That is strong enough to instantly dissolve harmful bacteria. No way this survived that easily.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because what happens if an enemy actually breaches those fortress walls? Well, within minutes, your innate immune cells rush to the scene. Think of these as your brawlers. Neutrophils are your first responders. They just swallow and destroy bacteria. Fun fact, the pus from a wound is actually mostly dead neutrophils that heroically gave their lives in combat. Then you have macrophages, the big eaters. They constantly patrol, consume cell debris, and basically display pieces of the enemy like wanted posters. Dendritic cells are the detectives, identifying these new threats to trigger backup. And natural killer cells, they go totally rogue, hunting down infected cells and injecting them with deadly proteins so they self-destruct.
But as this intense frontline battle rages on, you might actually start feeling sick. Which brings up a really relatable question. Why do you get a fever? We've all been there, right? Shivering under the blankets, feeling awful, just assuming the virus is what's making us so hot. Well, get ready for a massive plot twist.
Fever is not the disease itself. Fever is a weapon. Your body is deliberately doing this to you. When your immune cells detect a major infection, they release chemicals that intentionally hack and reset your body's thermostat. That higher temperature slows down bacterial growth, and it actually speeds up your immune activity and your healing process. It's the exact same deliberate tactic as inflammation, where your body purposefully widens your blood vessels just to rush more immune troops into a swollen, painful area.
Now, this brings us to a really critical distinction in how our military operates. Everything we've talked about so far, that's the innate system. It's incredibly fast, it's immediate, and it uses generalized brute force. But when an infection is just too strong for the first responders, a call goes out to the adaptive system. This backup force is slower to arrive for sure, but it is highly specific, it's incredibly intelligent, and it learns.
Which brings us right to the special forces.
This is where the biology gets truly extraordinary. The frantic brawling of the front line kind of slows down, and these highly trained, specialized units take over to surgically dismantle the enemy. The MVPs here are your T cells, which mature in your thymus.
You've got helper T cells. They're your battlefield commanders, coordinating the attacks and directing traffic. Then you have killer T cells, the elite forces that directly destroy virus-infected cells. But honestly, equally important are the regulatory T cells. These are the peacekeepers. Without them stepping in to call a ceasefire when the war ends, your immune army would just keep firing and fatally destroy your own healthy tissue.
Now, working right alongside those T cells are the B cells. These guys act as the ultimate weapons factory. Their main product, antibodies. You can think of antibodies as millions of tiny, highly specific GPS trackers. Each one is custom crafted to perfectly fit just one specific germ, exactly like a lock and key. Once an antibody sticks to a virus, it completely neutralizes it, glues bacteria together, and flags the invaders so the rest of the army can easily wipe them out.
So the crucial point is what happens after the smoke clears. Once an infection is finally defeated, some of those specific B and T cells convert into memory cells, and they stay in your body for years, sometimes decades. If that exact same germ ever dares to return, your immune system doesn't have to figure it all out from scratch again. The response is instant. A lot of times they destroy the returning invader before you even feel a single symptom. This right here is the entire foundation of lifelong immunity.
And this brilliantly illustrates why an army this sophisticated needs a dedicated headquarters. Enter your lymphatic system. Your bone marrow and thymus, those are the training grounds, producing and maturing the cells. Your spleen acts as a giant blood filter. And those bean-shaped lymph nodes, they're the barracks. When you get sick and the doctor feels those swollen lymph nodes in your neck, you are literally feeling your military bases expanding as millions of immune cells gather and multiply for battle. It's pretty wild.
Now let's talk about when things go wrong. Friendly fire and false alarms.
Because as amazing as this system is, it's still a complex biological machine, and sometimes it makes dangerous mistakes. What happens when the intelligence gathering goes wrong? The most common mistake is allergies. This is essentially a massive false alarm. Your immune system spots a completely harmless substance, like some pollen in the air or maybe a peanut you just ate, and drastically misidentifies it as a deadly invader. It overreacts, dumps a chemical called histamine, and suddenly you're sneezing, itching, and swelling, all because your body is trying to fight a war that doesn't actually exist.
But sadly, the mistakes can be far more severe. In autoimmune diseases, we see actual friendly fire. The immune system basically loses its ability to tell friend from foe and mistakenly attacks your own healthy, normal tissues. This is what happens in conditions like rheumatoid arthritis or type 1 diabetes. On the flip side, we have immunodeficiency. This is a system failure where the immune defenses are just too weak to fight off normal, everyday infections, leaving a person highly vulnerable.
Let's wrap up by talking about proactive immunity and training your defenses.
Understanding how this invisible army operates actually gives us incredible power to proactively train our defenses. We can make sure our system is fully prepared before a lethal threat ever breaches the walls. This is exactly how vaccines revolutionized human survival. A vaccine doesn't go in and directly kill germs for you. Instead, it acts like a military training simulation. By introducing harmless versions or even just tiny fragments of a pathogen, your body gets to practice. It creates the specific antibodies and forms those long-lasting memory cells. It safely learns how to win the war without you ever having to suffer through the actual disease. It's a tactic that has literally saved millions upon millions of lives. And on a day-to-day basis, you also have a role to play as the commander of this city. Look, there is no magic pill or supplement that's going to artificially supercharge your immunity overnight. But what you can do is powerfully support it with daily habits. Sleeping 7 to 9 hours, eating whole foods, managing your stress, getting regular exercise, and just practicing basic hand hygiene. These aren't just trendy wellness buzzwords, they are the literal supply lines keeping your frontline troops heavily armed and ready for duty.
When you step back and put it all together, it completely changes how you view your own biology, doesn't it? Next time you heal from a simple paper cut or get over a cold, remember that none of it happened by chance. Trillions of cells are relentlessly cooperating inside you. Every single heartbeat, every breath you take, your immune system is standing guard, silent, invisible, and totally resolute. It's what makes human life on this microbe-filled planet even possible.
It really is a microscopic epic happening inside you right at this very moment. So I'll leave you with this to think about as you go about the rest of your day. Out of everything we explored today in this explainer, from the acid in your stomach to the memory cells that stick around for decades, which part of your invisible army amazed you the most? Keep learning and keep taking care of your trillions of citizens.